And today I'm wondering if I can teach you the English behind Donald Trump's impeachment inquiry. Hmm. Okay, let's get started. So, there are actually two reasons for this. First, I have a lot of students who read BBC or watch CNN or listen to NPR. So they learn their English through the news, which is very good. However, I want to give a little bit of a warning about using the news to learn English is very good if you are a high level speaker. So if you're advanced, great. If you are learning English for business, great. If you're learning English for academic purposes, great. If you just like reading the news in English, great. However, if you are learning English in order to travel or to have a conversation with a native English speaker, the news is not the best way. It's not bad, but it's not the best. The reason is that there are three levels of formality in English. There's formal, semi-formal, informal. The news is formal, sometimes semi-formal, but the news is high level and it has a lot of vocabulary that is not everyday English. Whereas when you have a conversation with a native speaker, usually we speak semi-formal to informal. So there are two different levels. Those those two things are two different levels of English. So just be aware that when you're using the news to learn English, you may not need a lot of these words. The second reason is that I have been teaching English in Korea for over 5 years. When I started, Barack Obama was the president of the United States, and students had a hard time following him. So they would tell me his vocabulary is very difficult. His sentences are very complex. I don't have any idea what he's talking about. Donald Trump is basically the opposite.
I used
Donald
to use the word incompetent. Now I just call him stupid. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. But there's no better word than stupid. Right? There is no.
Donald Trump has a very basic vocabulary with a lot of superlatives: best, most, biggest, huge, great. And he also speaks in kind of very simple sentences. And the thing that makes Donald Trump difficult for people to understand is he follows kind of a stream of consciousness way of thinking. He doesn't always have the most logical order. So he will be talking about one thing and then randomly mention another thing.
Having nuclear. My uncle was a great professor and scientist and engineer, Dr. John Trump at MIT. Good genes, very good genes, okay? Very smart. The Wharton School of Finance, very good, very smart. You know, if you're a conservative Republican, if I were a liberal, if I ran as a liberal Democrat, they would say I'm one of the smartest people anywhere in the world. It's true. But when you're a conservative Republican, they try, do they do a number? That's why I always thought of, went to Wharton, was a good student, went there, did this, built the, I have to give my credentials all the time because we're at a little disadvantage. But you look at the nuclear deal, the thing that really bothers me, it would have been so easy, and it's not as important as these lives are. Nuclear is so powerful. My uncle explained that to me many, many years ago, the power, and that was 35 years ago. He would explain the power of what's going to happen, and he was right. Who would have thought? But when you look at what's going on with the 4 prisoners, now it used to be 3, now it's 4. But when it was 3, and even now, I would have said it's all in the messenger. Fellas, and it is fellas because, they haven't figured that the women are smarter right now than the men, so, it's going to take them about another 150 years. But the Persians are great negotiators. The Iranians are great negotiators. So, and they just killed us. This is
So they have two very different styles of speaking. Some people think that Donald Trump's kind of more basic style of speaking is one of the main reasons he was elected because people found him relatable, easy to understand. However, Donald Trump's simple sentences often cause a lot of discussion in the media because he says things that, while to language learners it doesn't seem problematic, to English speakers the sentence is problematic. Right now, Donald Trump is being impeached, or he is heading towards impeachment for corruption. One of the basic reasons for this investigation, so one of the main reasons for this investigation is the sentence, "I would like you to do us a favor, though." I would like you to do us a favor, though. On its face, that sentence is very simple. There's not a huge problem. But to a native speaker, that sentence is a huge problem.
What do you make of this exchange? President Zelensky says we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes. And President Trump replies, I would like you to do us a favor, though.
Well, you just added another word.
No, it's
You said,
in
I'd
the
like you to
transcript.
do a favor, though?
Yes, it's in the White House transcript.
When I read the transcript.
Okay, so let's go back and to the beginning so that it makes a little bit more sense. Okay. An impeachment inquiry basically is an investigation of misconduct done by a government official. If there's a suspicion that a government official has done something wrong, either illegal or just unacceptable in the eyes of the law or the government, then they will face impeachment. In America, we have two houses of Congress. We have basically the lower house, which is Congress or the House, and we have the Senate. If the investigation finds that there was some kind of misconduct, the House will vote. If a majority of the House votes for impeachment, the president is impeached. At that time, there is a trial in the Senate, in the other house, and they will have that trial. And then, if the person is found guilty at that trial, they will be removed from office. So, if Donald Trump is impeached by the House, then he would go on trial in front of the Senate. And then, if the Senate voted to say he did something wrong, he would be removed from office. But no one is expecting that to happen. It's seeming very highly unlikely. Um, this is only the fourth impeachment inquiry that has ever happened in the history of the United States. The foundation of this is related to Ukraine. Ukraine is dealing with some aggression from Russia. Russia wants to take parts of Ukraine, and Ukraine is receiving military aid from the United States to defend itself. The Ukraine has been receiving this military aid for a few years, I think around 5 years, maybe longer. And earlier this year, the military aid was approved. However, Donald Trump did not release it. He froze the money. He stopped the money from being sent to Ukraine. The new president of Ukraine called Donald Trump and basically said, when we get this military aid, we plan to use it to buy weapons. And so he basically said, please give us the money so that we can buy weapons. We're basically going to give the money back to you. And Donald Trump's response was, I would like you to do us a favor, though. And that's the problem. First, remember that would like is formal for want. So I want you to do us a favor, though. Second thing is that though is the same meaning as but. And the difference between but and though is that one, but is a little, not a little, but is stronger. But is a stronger word, and but goes in the middle. So I'm hungry, but I'm not going to eat. Though is more flexible. Though I'm hungry, I'm not going to eat. I'm hungry, though I'm not going to eat. I'm hungry, I'm not going to eat though. though can go multiple places. Um, it's more used in spoken English and it often goes at the end. The Ukrainian president said, when you give us military aid, we will buy weapons. And Donald Trump said, but I want a favor.
The Ukrainian president asking for military assistance, right? The military assistance, $400 million. And the very next line, after he says, like, Mr. President, we are ready to get some new weapons from you guys. The very last line, Donald Trump says, quote, I would like you to do us a favor, though. Though. What's the though doing there?
That but turned the situation into quid pro quo. Quid pro quo is Latin for, that is not American pronunciation. Quid pro quo is Latin for give and take. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. So basically, Donald Trump said, okay, but first I want this. And that but, that though, is a huge, huge, huge problem because quid pro quo would be okay if it were for the benefit of the United States, if it were in some way benefiting the American people or the American government. But Donald Trump wanted a favor that would personally benefit him. And so he used a foreign government to get a personal benefit related to an election. That's illegal on multiple levels. So one, foreign governments cannot assist in American elections. Secondly, using a foreign government to personally benefit yourself as a government official, huge problem. So what did Donald Trump want? The former Vice President, Joe Biden, had two sons. One son passed away, but his other son, Hunter Biden, got a job working for a company in Ukraine. And Donald Trump wanted the Ukrainian president to investigate the possibility that this was corruption. So he said, I want you to investigate corruption in Ukraine, but I want you to investigate not current corruption, but corruption from 3 years ago related to Joe Biden and related to Joe Biden's son. It was a very specific request. The reason for this is that Donald Trump is up for re-election, and one of his main competitors is Joe Biden. And if there is an investigation of corruption on Joe Biden or Joe Biden's family, or the fact that Joe Biden might have used his position in what we call nepotism or some kind of something like that, then that would be something that Donald Trump could use to affect the, that would be something that Donald Trump could use to sway the voters towards his side, similar to what he did with Hillary Clinton a few years ago. So Hillary Clinton, it was her email server, it was Benghazi, it was, this is the scandal that means she is not fit to be president. So he wants to say, Joe Biden and his son, this is the scandal that makes them unfit or makes Joe Biden unfit for office. So Donald Trump is facing possible impeachment because he asked a foreign government to do him a personal favor that would help him in the next election. All of this was covered up. There was a cover up. Everyone hid the files. Nobody talked about it. But there was a whistleblower. And this whistleblower wrote up a report that said Donald Trump made this phone call. I think it needs to be investigated. And so because of this whistleblower, all of this is now coming to light. And it's actually piling up. So there are now layers upon layers upon layers related to this investigation. So what started as Donald Trump basically asking for a personal favor has now become a historical moment in American history. Anyway, that's the news. It's stressful. It's stressful for me because I'm American and I don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, I hope that this was helpful in helping you understand, one, what's going on, and two, the vocabulary behind what's going on. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and have a fabulous day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!